Thank you. Mic check, mic check. All right.
Mike, good. All
Cool.
right.
How's everyone doing? Pretty good? All right. At least one guy is doing well. That's good to hear. So, hey, everyone. My name is Kash. I am the cat herder over at Jupiter, which is obviously a made-up title. But I do a bunch of stuff over there. But the real star of the show is right here next to me.
Awesome. I'm Richard Liu, co-founder of Huma Finance. On the internet, I go by Dr. PayFi.
The real doctor in the house.
Well,
That's
but
right.
today he's a real doctor. What happens is that I have bad cough. And I was complaining to him, okay, I don't know if I can sustain for this 20 minutes. He just showed me, get some kind of salt, hot water. He just helped me to treat it. Let's see, is he a real doctor? After 20 minutes, we'll know.
Yes, my doctorate from the School of Wikipedia is really paying off here.
Yeah.
As we get into this, I don't know, obviously you and I have known each other for a little while, but people in the audience might not be familiar with your, I can say it, illustrious background. So can you talk a little bit about your journey up until Huma and some of the things that you did before?
Yeah, I have always been in the tech industry, obviously, spent tons of time in Silicon Valley, mainly working Google. And one of the products I made was Google Fi. Hopefully there might be somebody in the audience who uses Google Fi. I know I'm one of them. And but right indeed, then I did my first startup, Leap.ai, which was obviously in the AI space, was acquired by Facebook. Right before this, my co-founder Urban and I were working for a company called Earn. They allow people to borrow against their future paycheck. That's probably the largest payment financing in the Web2 world. So that's really inspired us to work on this Huma finance, more on the payment financing using blockchain technologies.
And so that obviously led you into Huma at some point, and you guys initially were on Cello, if I'm not mistaken?
Initially, actually, let's say put on EVM.
On EVM
right,
in
EVM.
general.
So we tried a few, Polygon, and Scroll.
The Scroll. And then you got religion. You figured out which was the good chain, and you came over to Solana. Can you talk a little bit about that decision?
Sure. That's probably one of the most critical and correct decisions we have made in human history. So I ran into Lily last April in Hong Kong, and she just gave a speech about PayFi. I told her what we are doing in Web3. At that moment, we processed about $2 billion transaction volume. And then our background in Web2 world, she said, holy crap, you guys are building serious PayFi. You should come to Solana. Then we talk about, okay, what kind of support the Solana Foundation ecosystem can offer. And we said, okay, that's cool. We said, if you do that, I can make Solana my home. I told her. That's 1 year later, I think she over-delivered. Solana Foundation has done everything that they said they would do for the project. And we really appreciate it. And from our side, we can clearly say Solana is our home.
Yeah. Feels good. Yeah. And shout out to Lily. She is the best. All right. So came over to Solana. Obviously, you've seen quite a bit of success, if I might say so, since you've come over. And I think a big part of that is around the PST token and how you guys are able to ensure kind of composability within DeFi. Can you talk a little bit about the thinking behind that?
Yeah. For those ones who either involved with us earlier, we'll say Huma initially was more like permissioned. Because of all the compliance regulation, all those type of concerns, we were permissioned, which actually, although fundamental business was very good, but the adoption user side is a little bit difficult. Then we will figure out some kind of structure allow us to offer the product in a permissionless way, but under this is still compliant. So we launched the product, what we call the Huma 2.0 in April. That was an instant hit. Really just people love it. You get double-digit yield, and then you also get the Huma, feathers, incentives. That's great. Then we also have a mode called maxi mode. Then you don't have to, you forego with a real yield, but you go max with Huma feathers. And more than 60% of users went there.
Oh, is that true?
That's crazy.
Wow.
60%, which is very good for our business as well, because we get paid like 15 to 20%. And we pay nothing. So from revenue perspective and from margin perspective, it's very good. Of course, we give feathers to people. That's phenomenal. So back to the PST. So whoever people deposited with us, then we give them an LP token called a PST, which stands for PayFi Strategy Token, not people from West Coast get too excited. Pacific Standard Time. By the way, I named it for that consideration. And so PST. So what happens is a lot of feedback for us is, okay, you guys are great, but I cannot do DeFi composability. And with this one, we make DeFi composability as a first order priority. So you get a PST, you can go to Jupiter to swap to USDC. You can go to Camino and provide the liquidity. Very shortly, you can borrow against it. Then you can go to RateX to trade your PTYT. So then that means the entire thing loop into the entire Solana DeFi ecosystem, and we become a member of the bigger family. And then in that way, we bring double-digit yield from the real world. And that means Solana DeFi system has a flywheel. Now you have additional yield jump in. That makes the flywheel become bigger and bigger. So that's what we think we bring to the table. But the Solana's DeFi ecosystem allows us to be able to penetrate, distribute to all the DeFi DeGen users. That's just win-win to everybody.
Yeah, I think it's obviously it fits very well into the DeFi permissionless narrative, and it's giving opportunity to people all over the world to LP on real terms that they would not have.
Yeah,
otherwise,
thank you,
right?
Jupiter, for the first party to welcome us. Yeah. We feel so excited. Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. You did mention double-digit yield, and I know that there's probably some people in the audience that hear that and then get very scared. Can you talk a little bit about where the yield comes from, and also the kind of scale of the business right now?
Yeah, that's right. So what happens? We provide liquidity to all kinds of payment institutions, cross-border companies, cross-border payments companies, and credit card companies. Especially, let's use a cross-border payments company. Today, they have to go to find all kinds of pre-funding in their destination partner side. So that is a very big burden. What we have done is building the infrastructure for them. Whenever they need settlement, they come to request us, hey, I need this liquidity for me to settle. We'll send them stablecoin using blockchain in a lightning speed. So we just using the most powerful infrastructure of a blockchain, moving money from point A to point B at lightning speed. So we do that. Typically for this cross-border payment settlement between companies, when they borrow money to each other, they pay 10 bips a day. So in our case, because it's more at scale, so we charge them 6 to 10 bips a day. You do the math, 6 to 10 bips a day, annualized, even you only use working days, 250 days. Then you talk about somewhere between 15 to 25% APY. Then in that case, we can easily, of course, we make money, and then we will provide 10.5% to our liquidity providers. And we do this in a pretty confident way because we know every penny is paid, and we can manage to get the capital fully deployed. Yeah.
In every market like this, I think finding supply or lenders is a bit easier, right? Because you put a nice APY, people want that APY, they'll come in, especially if it's permissionless.
That's right. In our case, because the market is so big, cross-border payments, pre-funding, that one itself, across the world, $4 trillion today, locked into all kinds of pre-funding accounts. We just need to go to penetrate one by one. That's why. Then I say logs there. And the credit card is another big business as well. It's nearly $16 trillion settlement each year. And we are working, some really powerful pilots. Hopefully later this year, we're going to announce a major partnership that will drive a lot more volume as well.
So when you go to those partners who are borrowing from these pools that you're creating, what is the sales pitch? Is it just that this is substantially cheaper? Or like, how do you frame the value to these traditional players who maybe don't care about the crypto angle?
No, I actually, for all those guys, a lot of cross-border payments companies, their pre-funding is their limiting factor. They have a lot of demand, but they cannot find the pre-funding in the destination country. They just cannot do that business. Because why to find that pre-funding is such a big burden? First of all, they have to source of funding, open the bank account, and the source of funding in that fiat is not that easy. In this case, we abstract all those burden. We provide a pre-funding service. Under this, we use stablecoin to deal with it. So we don't have to deal with all kinds of fiat. So by providing the service to them, they can just go to do more business. So it's a very easy decision. Honestly, right now, the demand is very strong. The challenge is how do we navigate through, get the compliance approval, get them the right bank account set up, those type of things. It's more like onboarding hurdles. That's the difficulty we're working through it. But the demand we know is very, very strong.
Are there particular markets where you've seen demand come through because of the regulation and there's fewer hoops to jump through?
So far, our customers largely in Europe, UK, France, and UAE, and now Singapore. And we are gradually going to add quite a few in Hong Kong and in US as well.
Gotcha.
As you can see, we're largely targeting more developed countries. When you work with the developed countries, with this one, basically, we only service licensed financial institutions. The licensed compliance management means something. Means more than the other areas in the world. Yep.
Makes sense. So we were talking about the pools a little bit earlier, and the amount of volume you guys have done is obviously in the billions. I think there is a lot of talk in DeFi, especially on Solana and elsewhere, around TVL. Do you have any thoughts on TVL as a metric?
Yeah, I have been pretty vocal, and I think it's in all kinds of what they call Twitter spaces, because I end up dealing with not a Twitter space in the Chinese community. I have been very vocal. I'm no fan of it. I give it a TVL called Total Vanity Leaderboard.
That's pretty good.
Why? Because a lot of projects get kidnapped by that. Because everybody's chasing TVL, although they cannot use it, they end up go to get a lot of money idling there. And then they still have to find a way to return back to the people who put the TVL there. Either they pay money or they pay not a tokens. That makes them very, very hard to sustain. You look at this year, the TG, the project, with $1 billion TVL, how many of them stay there after TG? Many of them just crash.
That's true.
So we don't believe it. We only believe in total active liquidity. So every money come in, we want to put it in use. So right now today, the capital our LP provided to us, our utilization rate is at 98 or higher. 98% or higher. The only 2% otherwise may need to fall to meet redemption speed. So that you have some money there, people redeem. In a few minutes, we can redeem for them. So that's really, I really think the TVL served its purpose in early days of DeFi. Now the industry has already advanced so much. The metrics side, we need to advance. I personally advocate total active liquidity and total transaction volume. If you add another dimension, is total yield generated. Those three dimensions, I think that will form a better, healthy DeFi ecosystem.
I like that, the holy trinity of useful DeFi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's like, TVL I think is a really useful metric in the early days for how trusted a system was and how much capital it could kind of garner. But a much better way is to look at how useful is the system. I like this total yield generated the most, actually. That's a new one to me, but it's like DPI in a venture fund.
So I did a survey, and I believe about 3 weeks ago, I said, okay, if in the post-TVL era, which kind of metrics you would love to say? I put one is on yield, the total yield generated, transaction volume, and the total active liquidity. The other one is put user. Those are the typical, I'm from Web 2, those are the dimensions of metrics I look at it. Total yield generated is dominant number one.
Love it. I'm not surprised because I think a lot of the times you see APY numbers and they're, can I swear on here? I can swear, right? They're total bullshit. Whenever you see it, it's 84%, and then you actually do the math and you ended up making 12% or something like that.
Yeah.
So I like this. If you can actually, we should meme this into a thing and get more DeFi protocols to say
that's right. That's right. I would love to say, Jupiter, you guys are the leader of Solana DeFi ecosystem.
I think I'm going to talk to my devs after this, and for the JLP pool in particular, because we've probably given out hundreds of millions in actual yield.
Yeah, if something come out from this talk.
Yeah, there we go. Nice,
we push for some movement.
Well, speaking about making it actionable, actually, are there any other DeFi founders in the room right now? Anyone here founding a DeFi protocol? One or two, a few here. But I'm sure that there will be more people watching at home, and obviously you guys have been growing like a weed. What advice do you have for other DeFi founders in terms of growth? How do you do DeFi growth the right way?
I feel as a founder, you got to have your backbone. Don't get pushed around by the industry. The industry tell you, go with TVL. Although you believe it's a vanity metrics, I know many people, they did it because they have to. Right, the industry. But I find out that when we choose to do this way, I found the community responds so well. Weird. When I said initially I said total vanity leaderboard, and people would say, some people were really just attacking me like crazy. Turned out that everybody love it. Everybody love it. And then when they say, okay, our pool, we open a pool, let's say $50 million, in a few hours we close it because we got enough money, we close it. Initially, I thought people were fat about us. Turned out people love it. People love it. They know, okay, I got in, you protected my interest because you will secure my yield. Right? If you continue to get a lot of money, you're not use it, you're diluting everybody's investing. People love it. So my point was, if you believe something is right, have the courage to have your backbone, stick to it. And you will find not everybody will support you. There are enough people support you. They will help you to fight through it.
I think that point on the utilization caps in particular is really nice. It's something that we battle with all the time at Jupiter. Like JLP is 1.6 billion or something like that. And there's clearly like more demand.
But I saw that you guys put a cap as well.
We put a cap as well.
Yeah, when I first tried to put the JLP, I said, shit, it's capped.
You can always buy it on Jupiter on the open market at a premium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
that's what I did.
Smart man.
Yep.
We do that in order to ensure that like the APYs are good and that we're not kind of growing the pool more so than the traders need on the other side with Jupiter perps. Presumably, it's the same thing with you. Like, what is the process of increasing those caps? Because I know when you do, they fill up in like 12 hours oftentimes.
So in our case, the good news is that all the customer comes in to us, they're happy, none of them left so far, and then every month we do business. So that means we are onboarding new customers. So every month we'll have new capacity open up. So right now we expect every month we have somewhere $10 to $20 million add up. So right now we have about $100 million actively deployed. I expect by the end of this year will be $200 million. The next year we'll continue to grow. Unlike many other projects, overnight can go from 10 million to 1 billion. But in our case, you're going to expect our liquidity grow in a steady way.
That makes sense. How do you think about driving that growth? Is it more like you hire more B2B salespeople, or like what ends up driving the growth?
I think this is the growth is really on two fronts. For established business, you just hire more sales and just bring more partners on board. The other one is driving new innovations. I already mentioned, so far, majority of our business came from cross-border payments. But we think credit card settlement is even a bigger opportunity. And we're going to push that one as well. I think when that one comes on board, I think that speed will go nonlinear.
I think a lot of folks have kind of tried to get that segment on chain in the past, this kind of TradFi segment. It's maybe tougher to push them in. They kind of like sitting on the side. How do you bring them in?
The reality is that you think about this. Today, you and I swipe a card. The merchant only get paid 3 or 4 days. In Brazil, the merchant only paid 30 days later. It's just such a burden for them. If you can find a way to get them paid instantly, that will be super, super powerful. Then we need to pay for it. I think we can get that one. We are in active experiments on that. Hopefully later this year, we're going to launch with a bigger partner.
Oh, a little alpha there. I like that. Speaking of alpha, I know we only have a minute and a half left here, but obviously the TGE is coming up. How's that process been? Is that why you're coughing? Is that wearing you down?
That's indeed. That's I work for a lot of hours, and so super excited. Of course, that's just one stage of a project. To us, that's just beginning. In some other, because we're looking for accelerate global payments using the looks like doctor only work for 18 minutes. And so we're looking for basically to disrupt the industry by using PayFi technology to accelerate all kinds of payments. And I think with this TGE, get more validation from the market, and that will get us even more horsepower to grow even faster.
Excellent. I know that the Jupiter community is super excited about it as well.
Oh, yeah, totally. We are super excited. So maybe, we use the final 40 seconds to think about it. Okay. So I was really, really so thrilled to see you guys supported us, to launch the pool on Jupiter very early on. So what, in your eyes, why a project like Huma, which is different from typical DeFi, valuable to Jupiter and Solana DeFi?
Turning the tables a little bit. There's a bunch of different reasons, but I think the easiest one is that Huma is like a use case for crypto that my mother can understand, quite honestly. It's like, or anyone that's like run a business or had their own P&L can kind of understand that, there's a need for payment financing. And it's easy enough to tell the story about how crypto rails enable this at a global scale in a really simple way, both on the lending side and on the borrowing side. And I love having stories that are like real value for real people in the real world. I don't have to talk about Fartcoin or how it's the future of community building. I can just talk about, these businesses are better off than they were before. And that I do love. I like having
That's
case
cool.
studies. Yeah.
That's cool. Excited to know your mom played an important role in that thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in crypto since
mom.
2016, and for most of that time, they've thought I was an idiot. So it's nice to have like real valuable businesses.
That's cool.
To explain
Super
to them now.
excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the red blinking light tells me that we are out of time. Richard, any last things to say before we jump?
Oh, we're good.
We're good?
Super excited to come to Solana, and especially with the Solana DeFi ecosystem. This is just the beginning.
Excellent. Cool.
Cool.
Thank you
Awesome.
all very much for listening.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Buddy,